Hey, what's up guys? I'm Briley and I'm going to walk you through the assembly of the HeliFit system. So whether you just came from the other video where you're assembling your standard height version of your PhenoX rack or one with a tower, this is going to be how to continue to assemble the HeliFit system because it has a different crossbar and different pieces. If you're someone that actually has a different rack and you're going to assemble it on another manufacturer's rack, there's going to be a different video for that because it's going to be a slightly different process. So for now, let's get started on how to assemble the beginning stages of the HeliFit system. So depending on where you are in the stage of building or disassembling your rack to add the HeliFit system, it's going to be just slightly different things. So if you have to remove the old rail system, you're going to take off the hardware, the bolts that are here. There should be 2 bolts that pass through into the rear fitting that connect to this rail that connects to the wall. So you're going to remove those, and then you're also going to remove the single hole, so there's a hole on each side, that fitting, and just have it back down to the plain rail so we can kind of restart. The HeliFit system is actually going to bolt in a slightly different pattern, so we're going to go over that here, but you want to strip it down, crossbar off. And then if you're someone that's just building it for the first time, you're just going to follow these steps. So once you have this all stripped down and these bolts are removed, then it'll be just this fitting. You leave this fitting on here. So what we're going to have to do is actually install the bolts in a different way than it originally was. So we have to these won't be here yet. We have to get these bolts in first, but these bolts are going to pass through the inside here. So I have another upright to demonstrate this, and what you're going to need is a 3/4 wrench, and actually place a piece of painter's tape right over, and you'll see why that is. So what we're going to do is actually put this 1/2 inch bolt by 1 inch, and you're going to feed it into the end of the actual upright. Feed it down into the 3rd hole, just like so. It's popped into that 3rd hole, which would be right here. You will then put your 1/2 inch washer on, and then 1/2 inch bolt or nylon nut, and you're going to tighten that down with another wrench on this side. She'll do that 1 time, so that will be right here. This one will pass through. Tighten that down right over onto this fitting, and then we're going to do the same thing just above with the next bolt. Pop through, washer, and then put the nut on, tighten it down, and now you're going to have your upright fastened to this fitting that's here, that was left there. You're going to bolt this down, and then now we're going to be able to pass through the bolts for the actual cross rail for the HeliFit system. So that's step 1, is just getting this prepared. Okay, so now that we have the rear fitting assembled to the upright, and you can leave the bottom bolt in this whole time. You don't have to remove that, just the upper portion. So now what we're going to do is actually assemble the cross rail to the rack itself, which this is very simple. You might need someone to help you hold it. If you hold it near the center and then just pass this bolt through, so it's the 2nd hole down, it's going to be the 1st bolt. I already have it in here, obviously. Have the washer on this end, and then you're going to pass it through the hole, another washer, and then a bolt. It's going to have to go through this way because this will be in the way, and then you're just going to bolt it down and repeat the step on the 3rd hole down. Tighten this down, and then you're just going to move on to the other side, do the exact same thing. And then when you get the HeliFit system, this is all already assembled. So this is all ready to go. So all we're going to have to do is start moving on to assembling some of the pieces of the arms themselves. So we're going to get to that next. So now we're going to go into the assembly of the arm itself. So this part is going to be separate. It will have the telescoping adjustment piece already inside of it. You'll have to look for the longer tube, and the first bolt that we're going to do is going to be connecting this to the arm itself, and that's just a 2 3/4 bolt with a 1/2 inch washer, and you feed it through this hole, and then we're just going to tighten this down. You can actually use your hand to tighten this, put a wrench, 3/4 wrench, so it's 1/2 inch by 2 3/4. Just hand tighten it on there, and then you're just going to crank it down a few times, get it nice and tight with this piece, with this 1 1/4 tube. And then the next part that we're going to want to do is to assemble, to put on the arm, the actual extension piece. So this will be by itself, this will be by itself, and then all you're going to do is take this and slide this over the top, or slide it from the bottom, doesn't matter. That doesn't matter at all. So there's going to be a bolt that is 3 inches by 1/2 inch. So there's only a couple bolts in this whole thing. So this is going to feed through here, pass through, a washer on the outside, a washer on the inside, and then you're going to bolt it down. So I go, on this I did 10 holes up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So from the bottom up, 10th hole is actually where the bolt is passed through. You can adjust this some, kind of play with it to see, depending on where it is, will mean you'll have either more or less holes for the handle to adjust. But you can slightly change the way that the weight feels, how it's distributed, by where you place this. But this is where I like to do it, in this 10th hole. If you count it down from the top, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that'll give you a good understanding of where to place that. This should already be on here, so that's not a problem. End caps, if it's not already on there, you'll just place this in the end. There's another one that goes in the back here, so that's just a protective cap, stop it from damaging the upright itself. So the next thing that you're going to do is once you have this installed and put up there, there's a UHMW tape that comes with this, and this is just meant to protect and then also kind of tighten down. This might loosen up over time as it wears, and this UHMW will protect the actual this part, the tube, from where it hits the upright. So you're not going to put this UHMW tape on until the very, very end where you have everything set up, and then you want to place it on the back side where it makes contact with that upright. So besides that, it's pretty simple. We'll go over the function on how to use this in a different video, but for now we're just assembling. This is the stopper. This is going to help stop the arms from traveling inward towards you, and you can use these to set how far you want it to stay away from your body. Besides that, that is pretty much setting up the arms. And some of the other stuff we'll go over further in a different video on how to actually use the HeliFit system. So now that you have the arm assembled, we're actually going to place it in there and start putting the handle on it, and I'll just show you the different ways to do that. So arm comes down. This needs to be facing outward. So if it's on this side, that's where you have to make sure when you put these on that you have this for one side and the opposite, the other side is facing the other direction. But we're just going to slide this in and then pin it. We're going to go over this in the how to actually utilize and use the HeliFit system, but this can be pinned and made longer by just moving this down, but you always have to make sure that you are passing through both pieces, obviously, so it doesn't fall out. So always remove your weights when you're going to make changes. Okay, so we got that. And then now we have the handle. The handles, these they can fit on any which way. So whatever exercises you guys are coming up with and you want to do, you can adjust these. And you can actually switch if you want this out of the way or facing a certain direction, then you can swap the handles and put them in on different sides. So it's definitely universal in that way. But we're just going to pull the pin, and depending on which way you want the handle for what exercise you're doing, you just slide it on and always make sure that it's clicking in. Sometimes if you don't quite get it in there, it wouldn't be on there and it would slip. And then it's also going to scratch up your arm. So do the best you can with pulling the pin and kind of balancing it so it doesn't really scratch your arms. That's inevitable with the telescoping. That's just going to be a part of it. But you can mitigate that by actually kind of balancing this and pulling it straight up and down and pulling the pin. So that's how to put the handle on. Again, that's pretty obvious. And then we're going to assemble the other arm if you haven't already done that. It's the exact same step. And just making sure that all the little details, all the bolts are tightened up. And these ones you get nice and tight. Really crank these ones down because this is going to be a semi-permanent fixture. It's just going to stay there unless you decide that you want to test it with it at slightly different heights. But I would keep it around one of these holes right here. So you guys can play with it, but when you start messing with these and moving these around, this is where it should be set. This is kind of the standard that I have set, but if you guys are going to mess with it and move it to different places, you're going to be doing so kind of at your own peril, because this is where it's tested and where we have found it to be safe. But inevitably you guys are going to be probably testing different things out, so just be careful with how high or how low you set these. Test it out with lightweight. So the really cool part about the HeliFit system is we're able to actually adjust the tension, how this arm feels, by just tightening or loosening a few screws. So right here, there's a screw that passes here, a bolt, sorry. So this bolt passes through. It has a jam nut. This has different bolts on it. This is a prototype, but same concept. So you actually, this nut right here, you can loosen this jam nut and then tighten the actual nut that's on here, the 1/2-inch nut. Tighten it down until you get the amount of resistance that you want in this individual arm. You always want to make sure that there's no slop actually in this portion where this connects to this block. So here, this has extra stuff on it that doesn't belong there, but you get the idea. So always make sure this is tight, but how tight it is kind of up to you by either tightening or loosening this screw. Just get a feel for that, and then you will go to the other side, and when you're testing it, you just want them to be equal in how they feel. So just monkey with those, and then always make sure at the very end when you're done to tighten this jam nut so this one can't loosen up. So over time, you're just going to want to check these. If this ever gets a little bit sloppy here, just re-tighten this and then tighten the jam nut. And the same thing goes for this portion here. So there's a nut that passes, or a bolt that passes through here with a nut on the end with a jam nut. Whatever side it may be, this side or this side, it's most likely going to be on this side. So you're going to want to do the same thing. Actually tighten or loosen the actual nut, and then it has a jam nut on the actual one that you'll receive. Tighten that up until you get the resistance feel that you want within this arm. And then do the same thing on the other side. Just get them as close as you can with how they feel as far as that resistance, but always keep them relatively tight so there's no play, no slop within those. These you can tighten down Make sure that these are really tight. It should already come pre-tightened, but I think it's a good measure to go through and just check everything, tighten them down. As far as that goes, that's kind of the next step in getting your HeliFit system ready. So depending on your home gym situation or what type of lifting you like to do, these arms come right off, like when you received it, and you can store these away. If you have the pieces that it takes to hang on the wall, then that's pretty obvious how to actually achieve that. But removing the arms, very simple. And then folding it up, this is how I do it. Then it's out of the way. If you wanted them out here for some reason, and I can think of one of those reasons why, the way I use it sometimes, is some of our bars, our grips that fit within our bars, you can actually bolt through here and put neutral grip handles out here and still do pull-ups on the bar. You can do them on the bar itself, but you can have neutral grip handles that you put on this, and if you put them this way, they're out of the way. But if you want them here, or maybe you don't have room over here, then obviously you can put them where you want to. So that's just one way to set your HeliFit system up when you're not using it. So there you go.